So after we speculated on this yesterday, we now have confirmation that another multi-trillion-dollar giant has joined the race to accumulate as much Bitcoin as they can before Michael Saylor and Jack Mallers buy it all up. Literally hours ago, we got the news that the $10 trillion giant Charles Schwab is launching a Bitcoin product in the next 12 months. Not only Charles Schwab, Morgan Stanley has also confirmed as well. The biggest banks in the world might have trillions of dollars of assets, but there are only $250 billion worth of Bitcoin left on exchanges. Talk about a potential incoming supply shock the world has never seen before. Before we start diving into the historic supply suffocation, let's hear from the CEO of this huge firm, Rick Wurster. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Let's check out the clip and then we'll talk about it.
So moving gears to Donald Trump again, he has definitely vowed to be the crypto president, and we have already seen some moves to sort of roll back some of the harsher or tougher regulation on crypto. You have signaled your intentions to get bigger in crypto. Talk to me about what your latest, sort of crypto business looks like and where you see things going.
We think we're the premier destination for investors interested in investing in crypto. We custody the most crypto ETF assets in the industry. We are working on a plan to launch spot crypto in the next 12 months, ideally this year, but in the next 12 months. We have lots of ways for clients to get invested in crypto. They can buy the ETFs, and again, we're the #1 destination for doing that. They can buy Bitcoin futures. They can buy closed-end funds, which track the price changes of crypto. So there's lots of ways to get invested, and we have education around that. And what we saw in the fourth quarter of last year, when there was a real uptick in interest in crypto, is we saw a 400% increase in the traffic to our crypto site at Schwab. 70% of those people were prospects. And so what that says to me is that when clients become interested in crypto and they've learned more about it, the first place they want to turn is Schwab, because they trust us and they know we'll give them unbiased advice and that they can keep their assets safe with us.
Well, how do you get to spot crypto given the regulatory environment? What do you have to do? What do you need to hear from regulators for you to get comfortable with launching that?
I think there's a very clear path for firms like us to be able to launch crypto. There was a rule called SAB 131. What that rule did is it mandated that for every dollar of client crypto assets, we had to hold capital against that. Of course, client equities and client fixed income assets, we don't have to hold any capital against. But because people were particularly worried about crypto, as a bank holding company, we would have had to hold capital against it. That made it impossible for us to be in the market. That rule has been changed, and regulators broadly, other regulatory bodies have followed that guidance. And so I do think there is a clear path for.
All right, everybody, we are back. Let's talk about this supply shock that I was mentioning in the intro. And there you go. You had the CEO of Charles Schwab talking about, could you ever have imagined this in a million years? They're literally offering spot Bitcoin. And here's the thing about Charles Schwab. And, I mean, most of our audience, you guys are, between the ages of 35 and 55. So you guys probably have, an account with Schwab. Me and Opti don't. We're like Bitcoin only. But I'm assuming a lot of you guys have. I mean, and this is like, I love the boomers. There's awesome Bitcoin boomers like Larry Lepard, Gary Leland, but most boomers that haven't been exposed to Bitcoin, they like their Schwab account. Like my father-in-law, he's a huge maxi on the Schwab account, right? So the fact that he's going to be able to buy spot Bitcoin directly from his Schwab account is massive. And remember, the boomer demographic is the demographic that has the vast sum of the world's wealth currently, right? So the fact that they can just go, oh, Schwab, buy some spot Bitcoin is absolutely massive. Now, I did mention a supply shock. let's talk about that a little bit. So this is the amount of Bitcoin on exchanges, and it's essentially reaching an all-time low, right? So in 2022, June 2022, there was roughly 3 million Bitcoin on exchanges, and fast forward a couple years, there's 2.5 million Bitcoin on exchanges. So this is just going down while the price is going up. So yeah, I mean, pretty crazy. Anyways, so it's not only Charles Schwab, it's Morgan Stanley. And this is what we always talk about, like Bitcoin's incentives and, essentially the way that you should look at it. A couple years ago, when Robinhood introduced Bitcoin, like being able to buy spot Bitcoin, and PayPal, initially they didn't have the ability for you to withdraw your Bitcoin from PayPal or from Robinhood. So it was like, okay, you could buy it on the exchange and you can leave it there, but you can't withdraw. Cash App allowed people to buy and withdraw. So essentially, market forces were putting pressure on PayPal and I forgot the other one I was talking about, but PayPal and Robinhood to essentially allow withdrawals, right? So market forces are amazing. We're big, huge fans of markets here at Simply Bitcoin. And what markets do to people, it's that markets are the best incentive. Like capitalism and just free markets create the best incentive, because the other option is coercion. It's like top-down control, coercion. It always leads to suffering, poverty. It sucks, right? So big fans of free markets and capitalism in general here at Simply Bitcoin. But anyhow, so because of all the pressure coming from markets, from the success of MicroStrategy, the success of Jack Mallers' new company that he partnered with Tether and SoftBank, they're seeing this, right? And they're also seeing a lot of the so-called Bitcoin and crypto exchanges apply for banking charters. So it's not like they like Bitcoin; it's that they don't have a choice but to essentially get on the Bitcoin train or get left behind. In fact, we played you guys a clip yesterday of the president's son basically saying exactly that. If banks don't get on the Bitcoin train, they risk themselves becoming dinosaurs. So let's get to this article by Crypto Slate. The headline for our audio listeners is Morgan Stanley and Charles Schwab eye crypto trading as U.S. regulations ease. Two of Wall Street's most established firms, Morgan Stanley and Charles Schwab, are reportedly preparing to offer access to crypto trading. Morgan Stanley reportedly plans to roll out spot crypto trading on its E-Trade platform by 2026. To support this integration, the firm is exploring partnerships with crypto native companies. While Morgan Stanley already offers crypto ETF exposure to its high net worth clients, this new development will expand access to a broader base of retail investors. And you know what's really bullish about this? This is spot Bitcoin. This isn't ETFs. This is spot Bitcoin. And I guarantee you, a very strong word, that eventually Morgan Stanley is going to have to enable withdrawals, because if not, they're in a weaker position compared to their competitors, right? So anyway, could you imagine that? Could you imagine hearing that 5 years ago? Anyways, on the other hand, Charles Schwab is also reportedly positioning itself for a crypto entry. And it goes on to say the CEO, Rick Wurster, recent statement during its earnings call, which suggested that the financial powerhouse is working towards enabling direct spot crypto trading for its users. We just played you guys the clip, but I'll read this quote anyhow. We're confident we will be a great destination for investors interested in crypto. Our expectation is that the changing and regulatory environment, we are hopeful and likely to be able to launch direct spot crypto, and our goal is to do it in the next 12 months. So why is all of this happening? I mean, a little bit was talked about during the clip. It was the repeal of SAB 121, which President Trump did via executive order. And then this kind of final loop, to bring this back together, to weave it back in. When we were focusing so much on elections and politics late last year because of the presidential election. we were focusing on that. And we got a lot of heat. We're like, Nico, like, shut the F off. You guys are a Bitcoin channel. What are you doing talking about like politics? This is why. Elections have consequences. If the other candidate would have won, forget about all of this happening. Forget about the freedom of Ross. Forget about the repeal of SAB 121. Forget about the end of Operation Choke Point 2.0. So that's why we talked about it. That's why we focused on it. I mean, the president of the United States, who was a president-elect at the time, literally went on stage. The video, the live stream got millions of views and literally told the entire world, don't sell your Bitcoin, have fun with your Bitcoin. And then a couple months later, that led to the White House from their X account, their Twitter account, basically announcing to the world that the United States has every intention to become, not crypto, the Bitcoin capital of the world. Elections have consequences. Bitcoin has been in the shadows because it was very small. No one was really paying attention to it. It is no longer in the shadows anymore. It is a massive asset. Eventually, inevitably, there was going to be some type of politics involved, just because the asset was getting so big. And the thing that I'll say is, would you rather have a pro-Bitcoin government supporting you or an anti-Bitcoin government? Right? Like, I don't want to keep running away for the rest of my life. Like, that's not the case. Now, does that mean that you need the president of the US or the president of any country to support Bitcoin for it to succeed? Absolutely not. You can just take your Bitcoin and go to another jurisdiction that treats you better, right? But it does make life easier. It does have these types of consequences where essentially Wall Street, the world's largest capital markets in the United States, get the green light to be able to offer Bitcoin to their clients. And not even Bitcoin exposure through ETFs or MicroStrategy, actual spot Bitcoin. The biggest banks in the US literally have announced that they're going to be offering spot Bitcoin purchases to their clients within the next 12 months. Absolutely bullish. And the price is pumping. It's a really, really great Thursday. Opti, what's your take, man? I'm already getting comfortable with this mock studio that I built because the Wi-Fi in my house was essentially just completely destroyed. Like, we got a little blue astronaut. But anyways, I like it, man. I built it. We got a block clock in the back. It's pretty cool. Anyways, Opti, what's your take on this bullish news? I mean, Simply Bitcoin is tomorrow's Bitcoin news today, bro, because yesterday we were speculating that this was going to happen. Today we got the 100% confirmation.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I am being reminded of like 2017 when we all thought the institutions were going to be here. Like, that was the meme that was going to save the 2017 bull run. The institutions are here, and we got rug pulled then, and it was a brutal bear market. But now we do have confirmation that Wall Street is here. So, the huge opposition that we've been kind of facing for a long time, that Wall Street is the big enemy here, and they haven't been able to touch Bitcoin with a 10-foot pole. Now we're seeing that is switching on a dime, and it's obviously because of a more favorable administration, a more favorable regulatory environment in the United States around Bitcoin and quote unquote crypto. Now, of course, as someone that is here for the separation of money and state and remembers that the Genesis block did have to do and deal with banks and the great financial crisis, I am kind of conflicted on this because, like, as much as I understand that this was inevitably going to happen, this is how hyper Bitcoinization happens. I do like the meme that Jack Mallers was saying the other day. It's not that Wall Street is entering Bitcoin, it's that Bitcoin's entering Wall Street. And this is how we fundamentally change the game. It's a long-term game. You could argue that these are the very people that have financialized and kind of, resource stripped planet Earth. And so as much as you may not like this, as we've been saying, Bitcoin is for anyone, Bitcoin is for enemies, it's a permissionless network. And we knew that they would be incentivized to get into Bitcoin. And someone was basically saying in the chat something on the lines of like, Satoshi said, I'm trying to find the comment, Satoshi created Bitcoin for the separation of money. And here we go. GLMS, Satoshi created Bitcoin to free us from the very institution. Simply Bitcoin is inviting to the party. We're not inviting anything to the party. This has nothing to do with us. They're here, and now we have more confirmation that they're here, and therefore, this is where we are in the story right now. But we do always emphasize that you probably shouldn't be using Charles Schwab. You should be buying Bitcoin directly, taking Bitcoin into custody. So until they are allowing people to withdraw that Bitcoin and it's not just on their platform, there's still a lot of work to be doing. Now, one other point I do want to make here is I think the big idea with the biggest trading houses, the biggest banks in the world embracing Bitcoin is that this is a clear signal to everyone out there that, hey, if these institutions are embracing Bitcoin, then you probably should fundamentally change or rather fundamentally dive into what Bitcoin is and make an opinion on whether this is good for you and your personal portfolio or your business, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, the fact they're embracing Bitcoin, I would argue that means that you should probably buy some Bitcoin. The only winning move is the only winning move is to get off zero here. And so I think these stories, if more people hear about this stuff, they're going to fundamentally change their view around Bitcoin. It's no longer just like this internet, phenomenon, locked into the corners of the internet. It's becoming, like we've been saying for a while, or the last couple of months, it's like becoming, I would argue, obviously I'm biased, like the de facto macro asset in the morning, in the moment. Like Bitcoin was made for this moment when people are finding, it uneasy in the traditional markets. They're looking for alternative assets, alternative investment vehicles, or maybe even a better money. Bitcoin was designed for exactly this moment. And now the signal is getting out there. Of course, the big bucks, the smart money, the people with the actual capital are trying to get into the game. And as the new memes kind of popping up, the suit coiners are here. And this just means we have to continue to be more vigilant. Though I do want to relate a funny little story here.
Can we start wearing suits, bro? I mean, bro, that episode that I did in DC before.
I don't even own a suit, Nico. I don't even own a suit. So
I remember that episode, bro. Like that was like one of the first episodes that like we got over 1,000 live viewers on YouTube. Yeah. I was wearing a suit, bro. We should start wearing suits.
I mean, I wouldn't mind looking a little better.
Should we run the poll? Let's run a poll right now. Anyways, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I will only wear a suit if you buy me one. I don't even know one. All right, no, I just wanted to relay a story that like I was reminded of when you were talking about the Charles Schwab, that like I literally wouldn't be a Bitcoiner if it wasn't for Charles Schwab denying me a trading account. When 2016-ish, I went to Charles Schwab. I asked one of my friends, like, hey, investment. Like I was learning about the fiat system. It's like, hey, all the rich people that I know, they own stocks and, they trade and they have a portfolio. And so I went to one of my friends whose father kind of taught him how to trade and had a portfolio. And he literally, this is the funniest part. He literally sat me down and watched Hard Money with Jim Cramer and basically told me to go to Charles Schwab and create an account. And so I did that. I had no clue, right? No idea. And I go to Charles Schwab and they're basically like, okay, awesome. Like sit down. We will create an account for you. Like, how much money do you want to invest? And I'm like, I had like $300 at the time. And I was like, I have like $250. Like, can I open an account? And they're like, yeah, sorry, you need $2,500 to open an account. And I was like, oh, all right, well, later, guys. And, shortly after that is when I found Bitcoin. So if it wasn't for Charles Schwab denying me a stock account, I might not be a Bitcoiner. So coming full circle, it's interesting that now they're getting into Bitcoin, 8-9 years later. So look, it looks like Bitcoin is winning. It is fundamentally taking over the collective mind share of planet Earth, and it is entering a new paradigm here. Bitcoin is a legitimate asset now, or legitimate money, or legitimate store of value, however you want to frame it, in the eyes of the people that control the system. And so as much as we may not like the Larry Finks or the Wall Street firms to get into Bitcoin, I think if you really did the game theory, you would know that this was going to be an inevitability. Now we just got to make sure that the true Bitcoin ethos continues to move on, that, the Bitcoin network itself does not get compromised, and that people are taking Bitcoin into custody and running nodes. Like that's how we continue to kind of take over the culture. It's going to be a slow grind, but it goes to show that a lot of the things us Bitcoiners have been saying forever is actually playing out. And it's not to get like too hyped up or too excited about it. It's just like, this is the objective reality that we live in right now. And one of the things about being a Bitcoiner is, you know, you align yourself with reality and where things are. And that's why Bitcoiners are who they are. And so this is where we are. Anyways, enough ranting.
Yeah. Well, dude, first of all, I do want to give a shout out to the live stream. 620 of you guys watching live on YouTube, 1,700 of you guys watching live between YouTube and X. And shout out to the Rumble audience popping off today. 216 people watching live on Rumble. If you guys are enjoying today's show, make sure to smash that like button. Really, really helps with the algos, guys. I can't emphasize that enough. If you guys love Simply Bitcoin, if you guys enjoy watching Simply Bitcoin content, make sure to smash that like button. Share the video. And yeah, that's how we get the live stream forward. Anyways, I do want to give an extremely special shout out to our lead sponsor. Guys, if you guys want to support the show, we get this message all the time. The best way to do it is to check out our partners. And we are very, very picky on who we choose to partner with. We partner with Bitcoin companies or companies that help you on your Bitcoin journey. Our lead sponsor is by far the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack, bitcoinwell.com. To get started, go to bitcoinwell.com/simply. You put in your email address, takes 2 to 5 minutes to get signed up. And the reason you want to go to bitcoinwell.com/simply is you get 3 tosses into the Bitcoin wishing well. As soon as you sign up, you make your first purchase, and with those 3 tosses, every single toss, you have an opportunity to win up to 1 million Satoshis, which we're going to be doing live for you guys right now. So the way this works is you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, you earn points, and you could redeem those points towards the Wishing Well contest. By the way, if you earn enough points, you can get a stamp seed, you can get a leather mint wallet, or you can get a Simply Bitcoin hoodie, which, by the way, are currently back in stock. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Or a Cybertruck if you earn 69 million points, an orange Cybertruck. So we're going to do a live giveaway on the show right now. Get your Lightning wallets ready. Again, if you go to bitcoinwell.com/simply, first person to scan the QR code has won 408 sats. If you go to bitcoinwell.com/simply today, you sign up, you make your first purchase, you get 3 tosses into the wishing well. Every single toss, you have an opportunity to win up to 1 million sats. That's like $1,000 right now just for signing up. It's like literally a win-win. All right, everybody, let's get to the news. I mean, the numbers. We have tons to talk about. We will be right back in just a second. I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, Stamp Seed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed words really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of writing them down on paper. Don't do that. Paper sucks. You want to literally stamp your seed into this plate of titanium. Your words are actually stamped into the metal plate with this hammer. So once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and your pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and most importantly, because this is generational wealth, time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin for the long haul. I mean, here is the plate that they crushed. They put in water, they put a blowtorch to it, and as you can see, the words have survived. Stamp your seed on Stamp Seed. And you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on their store. Head over to stampseed.com today. All right, everybody, we are back. Let's take a look at that poll. I asked everybody, there's 130 votes so far, 655 people watching live on YouTube. I said, should Opti and I start wearing sleek suits on the show instead of hoodies? 54% of you guys said no. 46% of you guys said yes. So please let us know down in the poll. Anyways, at the time of recording, by the way, we got a very important comment by Z Logic, and I do want to address it. Z Logic says, "Are you guys going to discuss Bitcoin Core today?" We absolutely are. In fact, we tried to get Bitcoin Mechanic to join us on today's show. Unfortunately, I don't think his schedule worked out. We're going to try to get him on in a couple of days, but we're absolutely going to cover that. And that's what the culture segment's for, right? And Opti has that lined up. Anyways, at the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $97,120. Block height, 894,761. Sats per dollar, 1,030. Market cap, 1.93 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 8.52%. Percentage issued, 94.56%. Decline from all-time high, negative 11%. Realized monetary inflation continuing to take fiat currencies to absolute effing school, 0.84%. Anyhow, guys, I do have a clip of the BlackRock CIO.
Investors.
Sorry about that. I do have a clip of the BlackRock CIO, and she is talking about how institutional investors are largely focused on Bitcoin right now. And something interesting that I'll say, and I think I've been tweeting this out actually the last couple of days. In fact, I tweeted it out not too long ago, but it goes like this. From a news perspective, this has been by far the best cycle in Bitcoin's history, like by a very, very large margin. I have no doubt that the price is eventually going to follow. I mean, if you take a look at what's happening, you had the CEO of Charles Schwab, I mean, basically saying, look, we're gonna not allow spot Bitcoin purchases, right? So anyways, BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, she's telling you that institutions are largely focused on Bitcoin right now. Absolutely crazy. This is what we dreamed of back in 2018, except back in 2018 and 2017, we got the price action, right? It's funny how that works. So I'm going to make Opti and I full screen for a second so that we can kind of feel bad and reminisce. So 2017, 2018, Opti, we got the price action of our dreams. And all this news that we wanted never came to fruition, right? Like the institutions weren't coming, governments weren't coming. And now 2025, things are in reverse. Like the institutions are here, governments are here, but the price is we got the opposite. I mean, it's funny how life works. Anyways, I'm going to shut up. I'm going to play you guys this clip. Then me and Opti are going to talk about it. Smash the like button in the meantime. We'll be right back.
I'm not a deep enough student of kind of the institutional ecosystems in the other coins right now, but in terms of the conversations that we've had with institutional investors, they are really largely focused on Bitcoin right now, particularly in this environment. Ethereum is still a distant second. Yeah.
So we're not even talking about revenue generating protocols or anything like that.
And remember, we're talking about the institutional investors who are broadly in 60-40 equity bond portfolios and looking to figure out what the new sources of return and diversification will be for them. They want both of those, and that's what's bringing them to.
Happened behind the scenes and will become more public is so stablecoin started with.
But in terms of the conversation,
assets do you actually think are investable right now from an institutional lens?
All right, I'm just going to leave it right there. Couple things. So thing number one is Ethereum is a distant second. I think Ethereum's over, man. It's done. Pack it up.
I mean, distant second, I think says that in a nice way.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very nice way of saying it. You can't match Bitcoin's characteristics. Like it's 21 million guys. No one could change the rules. That's what it comes down to. That's why Bitcoin is the superior asset. And I don't think anything in this world could match Bitcoin's characteristics and Bitcoin's absolute scarcity. That's why Michael Saylor is so confident that Bitcoin is this black hole. Like I mean, it's self-explanatory, right? That's why number goes up, right? Anyhow, Opti, what the F is going on, man? Charles Schwab, CEO, talking about adding spot Bitcoin. The chief investment officer for BlackRock basically saying Ethereum is gone, and that institutional investors are extremely interested in Bitcoin. What world are we living in, bro? Like, this is crazy. The only thing that hasn't happened yet is the price hasn't caught up. That's the Frank Ark in the chat. Quote, there is no distant second. I love that. So yeah, like what is going on, Opti? Like, why hasn't the price caught up, man? Like, Trump said you guys are going to get sick of winning and tired of winning. It's like, yeah, from a news perspective, this is winning for sure, bro. But from a price perspective, bad, not good.
I mean, look, I am a 45 IQ Bitcoiner, so I like to break down things very simply. If the price isn't running up, there just means there's more sellers than buyers. You got to remember, for every buy, there's
you're checkmating. You're checkmating me right now.
This is literally how Bitcoin works. For every buy, there's an equal and opposite sell. So someone's selling the Bitcoin, but on the flip side, someone's buying that Bitcoin. So I think we've been kind of covering it for a long time, wondering where these sells are coming from, considering we are seeing an incredible amount of quote unquote buys, spot buys from institutions and ETFs, etc., which does beg the question, if the price isn't pumping, is there a lot of paper Bitcoin? And obviously we'll never know until something blows up. But on that point, call the bluff and buy Bitcoin and take into custody. Though the main point here, though, and I think I've heard this, I forget where I heard it from. It might have been Simon Dixon or like Tom Luongo, but it really made sense to me in what we're seeing in the restructuring of the monetary order. So as we all know, recapping a little bit, Larry Fink, the biggest institutional asset manager in the world, launched the ETF last year. It's the most successful ETF launch ever. And that was a huge signal, I would say, to, every macro trader, anyone in global markets, essentially projecting where they're going. And so as we're seeing this year, the beginning of the Trump administration, we're seeing this whole trade war, tariff war, and a lot of people are speculating that that is to lower the bond rates, the bond yields here, and so that they can refinance their debt. And so we're seeing two different things play out. We're seeing that the U.S. government is doing whatever they can to kind of incentivize people to go into bonds because they need, they need people to buy the government debt. And we're seeing Larry Fink is kind of signaling the opposite, in essentially it's like they see that there's something going on the horizon. And we could also talk about, which one from Berkshire Hathaway died? Is it Munger or is it, I think
Charlie
Buffett.
Munger.
Yeah. So, and we saw Buffett basically sell all his stonks, go into cash, and he basically scooped up everything when everything crashed. So we're seeing that the people with money understand that there is a monetary restructuring going on. Now, I think the interesting part about it is this idea of Larry Fink signaling to all of his customers, hey, we're going into Bitcoin in a big way. So essentially to me, that's saying, hey, they understand, look, if we're heading into this, multipolar world here, and the U.S. is becoming a little more isolationist and people don't want government debt, then what's going to be the big winner here? Obviously, a neutral, apolitical money that isn't controlled by someone, which Larry Fink went all in on. And so I think that is the big signal here, is that the institutions are seeing what we've been seeing for a long time, that, hey, if you want to own something that isn't controlled, or rather isn't a part of the traditional financial system, you're not going to go into gold, you're going to go into Bitcoin. And the least risky move has always been treasuries. Now we're seeing the signal spreading that the least risky thing for obviously us younger people that are digitally native is like it's Bitcoin. But now we're seeing that the big bucks, the deep pockets, are also seeing the same game that we're seeing. And they're like, all right, do I want to go to the analog, or what they say? Do I want to go to the physical Bitcoin, aka gold, or do I want to go to the real Bitcoin, which is, you know, the Bitcoin asset BTC that is going to go up exponentially? And so we are, I think, seeing a fork in the road here, where anyone that pretty much jumps into the traditional store of value assets, whether that's bonds or gold, or tries to park their wealth in, you know, the more profitable equities, is going to get left behind. And if you dive into Bitcoin, then you have all the potential of basically an asset or store of value that gets monetized in real time. And so obviously, I think if you understand all the different dynamics going on, you're not going to be buying Ethereum here. Everyone knows Ethereum's a freaking heaping pile of mess ever since they left proof of work, and even before that. And so it is interesting that when you compare the institutional demand for ETH compared to what it is for Bitcoin, it's like everyone knows, hey, why am I going to put my money in ETH? Yeah, it sounds like, you know, like a leverage play on the Bitcoin markets, but people want a safe bet right now. We're seeing there's all kinds of uncertainty. People want a safe bet. The safest bet in the quote unquote crypto industry is obviously Bitcoin. It's the only one that really does what it says it does. It's the only one that's been going up. It's the only one that's being monetized. It's the only one that's really being used for what they say it's being used. And so I think, you know, as easily as it is to say that these institutions are naive and, you know, they're just dumb money with deep pockets, they understand what we understand. Imagine if you understood the plumbing of the financial system. You think you're going to be buying ETH? It's like, no, you're going to be buying Bitcoin because it is the apolitical neutral money that no one controls. And it's hard capped at 21 million. So like, am I surprised that this is happening? No. Again, this is, you know, the Bitcoin conference headline, embracing the game theory. We're seeing that the world is embracing the game theory. Bitcoin's going to win. Bitcoin is in the winner take all category of money. Bitcoin is being monetized in real time. And so, hey, if you understand finance, it's like, it's literally a no brainer. You're like, when am I going to buy this, you know, digital fiat, AKA every other crypto? Or am I going to buy this thing that isn't controlled? It's like, yeah, we're going into Bitcoin. No one, I don't think anyone that understands anything is thinking any other way. It's very simple.
100%, man. I completely agree with you, dude. People are waking up, man. People are waking up. You know, it's Bitcoin only. It's going to be like that. It was difficult for us, you know, last cycle, because, you know, a lot of these altcoins were just getting these crazy percentage gains. And people are like, oh, why are you guys Bitcoin only? It's like, because we always knew the characteristics, the fundamentals are there. Like all you got to do is pay attention. You know, nothing beats absolute scarcity. Nothing beats Bitcoin's characteristics. Like Bitcoin is the only money that essentially people can't change the rules. Like that's what makes it special. So it protects like the little guy, right? Whether it's Ethereum, XRP, fiat, doesn't matter. Essentially, the people that control that said money change the rules to benefit themselves at the expense of everyone else, right? Bitcoin is for the little guy because it doesn't matter that Michael Saylor, you know, owns 3% of the supply. He can't change the rules to benefit himself, right? So anyways, that's what makes Bitcoin unique. Guys, we got a jam-packed show for you guys. I do want to give a shout out to the stream. It's popping off today. 2,324 live viewers between X and YouTube, 700 live viewers on YouTube, and 342 live viewers on Rumble. If you guys are enjoying today's show, make sure to smash that like button. All right, everybody. I do want to give an update on the poll. Should Opti and I start wearing sleek suits on the show instead of hoodies? 41% of you guys said yes, and 59% of you guys have said no. Smash that like button, guys. We're at 215 likes. Help us break 250 likes in the next 10 minutes or so. Anyways, guys, we will be right back. We're going to hit the news segment. We have tons to talk about. Let's check it out. Here we go. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Casa. Casa makes self-custody easy and secure. As a Bitcoiner, I care about holding my own private keys, but multi-sig can sometimes get tricky. Casa nails it with a multi-key security. So even if one key gets lost or stolen, your Bitcoin stays safe. And you don't give up custody, meaning no one could access your Bitcoin but you. No seed phrase anxiety, no single point of failure. I've been telling my friends and family about Casa for years. Their UX and UI on their app is by far the best in the industry. Inheritance planning is built in, and they even offer Casa for Business if you're thinking about a Bitcoin treasury. Hit up casa.io today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 10% off Casa Standard or Casa Premium. Head over to casa.io.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, CoinKite. If you take your Bitcoin security seriously, you'll need the best Bitcoin hardware wallet on the market to take self-custody. That's where Cold Card comes in. The Cold Card Q is the most advanced Bitcoin signing device ever made. It's got a full keyboard, larger screen, and NFC support, making air-gap signing easier than ever. It's built for power users who want the ultimate security without sacrificing usability. And if you're looking for a battle-tested, uncompromising cold storage, the Cold Card MK4 is your go-to with PSBT signing, an industrial-grade secure element, and USB-C. It's the perfect blend of security and convenience. Both devices are, of course, 100% Bitcoin only, open source, and built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners. Secure your Bitcoin the right way with the Cold Card Q and the MK4. Head over to coldcard.com today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 5% off anything on the store.
All right, everybody, we are back, and I do want to talk about today's story. What are we going to talk about? We're going to be talking about the thing that I've been wanting to talk about these last couple of days, but we haven't had the time. Quick update on Samourai. So again, it kind of goes back into this idea of that elections have consequences. We've been talking about this for many, many months now. We got a lot of heat in the beginning, and guys, like, the reality is that, if the other candidate would have won in November, Operation Choke Point 2.0 would have accelerated. That's the reality. SAB 121 wouldn't have been repealed. Ross Ulbricht would essentially still be, in prison, right? So, a lot of these things are happening slowly, and Opti and I were we're one of the first to kind of identify it when they were going after Tornado Cash. And I remember I saw, I had white in my eyes because I was thinking about it. I was like, holy crap, like, essentially they're trying to set a precedent where they can sanction open source software. And you know where that leads? That leads to, what else is open source software? Bitcoin, right? So, it's pretty crazy, right? That essentially, and remember, sanctions are meant for individuals and nations. Like, the whole idea that you can, software is a neutral piece of technology, right? Like, it's like you can use it. It's like basically saying, like, you can use a car in an illegal fashion. So you're going to sanction a car? Like, the vast majority of people that were using Samourai were using it because they valued their privacy, right? And it was only a small percentage of those people that were using it for illicit purposes. Now, why does everyone else have to pay pay a cost for a small percentage of those people using Samourai the incorrect way? Like, that makes absolutely no sense. And I don't think it had anything to do with the fact that there was just a small subsect of those people that were using Samourai for illicit purposes. And the reason for that is because when a bank launders money or mixes money for an illegal entity, like TD Bank had one of the largest fines in history. They're literally laundering money for the Mexican drug cartel. You don't hear the CEO of TD Bank going to prison, right? I think this was a directed attack against our industry, part of Operation Choke Point 2.0, because there are members of government that want to roll out a central bank digital currency. Bitcoin is competition, and they don't want competition. They want a monopoly over money. That's what it comes down to. I honestly, I used to be on the fence. Opti used to make fun of me, the infamous OptiGate. Like now it's just like, no. They want to go after Bitcoin because they want a CBDC. That's what it comes down to. And this is why, look, guys, I'm telling you, you think it's over just because a pro-Bitcoin president won the presidency? No, the midterms are in 2 years. What do you think is going to happen? Like Elizabeth Warren is still in office, right? She still sits on the Senate Banking Committee. Just to, like, you guys got to get your head in the game. Anyways, and tune into Simply Bitcoin, of course, because we'll keep you informed. Anyhow, so Samourai Wallet, feds asked for time to mull dropping crypto mixer case. Right, it goes on to say, U.S. federal prosecutors and the co-founders of the crypto mixer Samourai Wallet have asked the court for more time to consider potentially dismissing the case after the Justice Department rolled back its crypto enforcement. Elections have consequences. Lawyers for Samourai Wallet CEO Mr. Rodriguez and Chief Technology Officer Mr. Hill said in an April 28 letter to Manhattan federal judge Richard Berman that they jointly requested with the government, quote, for a continuance of the pretrial motion scheduled by 16 days. The Samourai executive lawyers said on April 10th that they wrote to acting Manhattan U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton to request the dismissal of the case after an April 7th memo from Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche shuttered the Justice Department's crypto team. Quote, on April 24, 2025, the defense counsel met with the prosecutors and their supervisors in person at the U.S. Attorney's office to discuss this request. Quote, the defendants believe that a continuance of the pretrial motion schedule is warranted to permit defendants to avoid the significant expense of preparing their motions while the government determines its position. It added that prosecutors agreed to adjourn, quote, without expressing any views on the merits. Samourai Wallet's Rodriguez and Hill were charged with conspiracy to commit money laundering and operating an unlicensed money transmitting business in April 2024, to which they both pleaded not guilty. Blanche's memo said, quote, the Department of Justice is not a digital assets regulator, and it would abandon enforcement and investigations besides those which, quote, focus on prosecuting individuals who victimize digital asset investors and those who use digital assets in furtherance of criminal offenses. It goes on to say, currently, motions in the Samourai's executive cases are due May 13th, responses are due on June 10th, and replies on June 24th. The letters propose to put this back to May 29th for motions. The continuance would not affect the trial date, which is slated for early November. It goes on to say, quashing crypto litigation list lengthens. The move is the latest in a long list of court actions to have prosecutors' crypto cases quashed under the Trump administration's favorable stance towards the industry. It goes on to say, on April 9th, SafeMoon CEO Brandon John Carney, who is charged with wire fraud and money laundering, cited Blanchard's directive in a bid to get his case dismissed. Meanwhile, on April 28th, the DeFi Education Fund petitioned the White House to drop charges against Tornado Cash co-founder Roman Storm, requests immediate action to discontinue the Biden-era Department of Justice lawless campaign to criminalize open source software development. Out of this entire article right here, this is the most powerful line, and this is what you guys have to wrap around your head. I don't know if the Overton window is there for me. I mean, I've said it. I've dropped little hints to it here and there, but I'm gonna reserve my opinion on this. But anyhow, this quote right here is the most important quote out of this entire article. Discontinue the Biden-era Department of Justice lawless campaign to criminalize open source software development. And remember, the proposed 30% Bitcoin mining tax, the target the target on CZ had to serve prison time. The target on Arthur Hayes, who recently just got a pardon by President Trump. The arrest of open source software developers, the attack on the Bitcoin mining industry, the attack on Bitcoin self-custody. You want to know why we endorsed RFK Jr. and Trump last November? This is why. And you want to know what the consequences are of them winning an election? I mean, we started off with the intro where you have the CEO of Charles Schwab basically saying, you know what, now that SAB 121 is repealed, we're probably going to get into it. Elections have consequences. Bitcoiners live in this idealistic world where they read the sovereign individual and they think, you know what, I got my Bitcoin, I have it in my self-custody, it's good. Yes, that is extremely important. That's very important. You should focus on that without a shadow of a doubt. However, while we transition from the fiat standard to the Bitcoin standard, where essentially the separation of money and state makes politics irrelevant, I hope that's what happens. Elections have consequences. And I remember I was beefing with a lot of people where they were like, yo, what are you doing? What do you, this doesn't matter. Trump is this, Trump is that. He might be. There might be some things that you might not agree with him from a social perspective or, a regulatory perspective on social issues or the immigration stuff or whatever. But you're not tuning into Simply Bitcoin to hear political commentary on all those things. You're tuning into Simply Bitcoin to talk about Bitcoin, to talk about the separation of money state, which, by the way, is going to fix all of those things. You can make a very solid argument that immigration, the cost of goods going up, essentially the political upheaval. You can make a very strong argument that all of those things are caused by broken money, which is why we focus on fixing the money, because if you fix the money, you fix the world. So this is big news. I hope that these cases continue to get dropped. I hope the Tornado Cash gets dropped. Case gets dropped. I hope the Samourai case gets dropped. And yes, this is important. And again, guys, you have the ability here. You have the ability to speak up. You have the ability to get involved. All you got to do, in this narrative trench warfare that we live in, that we're fighting on in the battlegrounds of the internet, is just shoot out a tweet, make a video, make a live stream, make your voice heard. As much as it hurts me to say this, vote in the fiat elections, because remember, it was enough of us voting that got Ross freed. And I think as time progresses and Bitcoin gets bigger and its political implications get bigger with it, yes, it's inevitable, guys. Listen, if you're not in the room while the deal is being made in Washington, D.C., you're not in the deal. We are in the room now. So, and of course, thanks to all of your efforts. So someone in the chat says, go pull it up, Opti.
We're getting trolled. We're getting trolled.
Opti Stain Stock said, I will only ever vote for Opti for Bitcoin president. I will die on this hill. That's absolutely right. Opti running for president would be great. Me and Opti both can't.
I can't.
Me and Opti both can't run for president because we weren't
born in the States.
But I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. I mean, Opti, we should just run for senators, bro. F it, dude. Senators, bro. Let's do it.
I'd much rather have the power.
What's the senator from Pennsylvania? He doesn't even wear suits, bro. What's his name? I forget. Fetterman, bro. He doesn't give two Fs, bro. He's wearing hoodies. He's wearing Crocs.
Let's we don't have to cross the line of going to suits, but can we cross the line of wearing, basketball shorts in public? I think that's too much for me. That's too far gone. Especially if you're at the house. Anyway, let's talk about this. So, obviously, when we first heard that court ruling or that court note, we were super hyped about it. We were like, yes, this is a huge win. Super excited for this. We seeing some good directional, news going for Tornado Cash and the Samourai wallet stuff. And I think the main point here is like, this isn't over until they're officially out of jail. Like until this case is dropped, then I will kind of hold my breath on this idea of, is Operation Choke Point 2.0 officially over? Yes, we're seeing a more favorable regulatory environment, but until this gets dropped and we can finally go back to using privacy, not because we're criminals, quote unquote, but because, as many people say, privacy is a right. I don't think this fight is over. So I am super excited to see, well, maybe more interested and curious to see how this will end. Obviously, I want to free the Samourai devs. I think that's going to be a huge win when they do walk free. And I think that's going to be a very, very big moment for not only the Bitcoin community, but for privacy in general. And if that does happen, then, as much flack as you've gotten on the show, Nico, about the quote, excuse me, guys, of the quote, elections have consequences. I think at that point, this conversation will finally be moot, and we can kind of move on to the next thing to get mad about, which is basically what we're going to be doing here on the show in a minute. But yeah, I think this is favorable, and I think this is like we're going in the right direction, and it seems like the courts are kind of agreeing with what us Bitcoiners have been saying. We'll see how this judge rules, and hopefully the Samourai wallet devs are free soon. They said May 13 is the next date, and then maybe by June they can walk out. So maybe they'll be walking out by summertime, and then the Bitcoin price starts pumping, and we can have a little kumbaya moment. So until they're finally free, this isn't over, and this is one of those big stories that we definitely have to highlight and keep talking about, because this is a complete injustice, and as we've been covering for a while, a complete weaponization attacking our industry. And so, I want to see them free. And until that happens, I think we're going to have to keep covering this.
Absolutely. I do want to give a shout out. We got a super chat. Appreciate the $20. Mexico Huddle says, make a Simply Bitcoin men underwear.
Not gonna happen.
That is absolutely hilarious. Appreciate it, dude. Thank you for the $20. Anyways, guys, you guys are going to want to stick around for the culture segment, because there is some things going down in Bitcoin land. I was trying to get Bitcoin Mechanic to come on today's show. He couldn't make it due to his schedule. But there seems to be some things going on with Bitcoin Core. So we're going to be talking about that in just a second. Let's check it out. Here we go.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technology. Why HIVE in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's position to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, HIVE's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. Need liquidity without having to sell your Bitcoin? For more than 6 years now, Ledin has been the trusted choice for Bitcoin-backed lending with transparency, security, and trust at their core. I absolutely love these guys, and I personally not only have an account with them, but also a loan. And some of the key features that I love about Ledin is the fact that there are no monthly payments. You pay at the end of the term. You also have the ability to roll over the loan as well, and you can pay it back whenever you want. Essentially what they do is that they help their clients unlock the liquidity of their BTC, allowing you to hodl while still accessing the wealth of your Bitcoin. They've been battle tested with their focus on transparency, security, and trust, allowing them to build a proven track record of client success and security, helping tens of thousands of clients harness the value of their digital assets with confidence and peace of mind. Learn more about what your BTC can do for you today. Simply Bitcoin viewers get 0.25% off their first loan by using the link in the video/podcast description. What are you waiting for? Head over to ledin.io today.
All right, everybody, we are back.
I muted. Okay, guys, here, actually, let's go back here. That's why I had me here. All right, guys. So you guys have been wanting this, and, you know, full disclosure, I would say this is above my pay grade here, but I had to give it a couple of days because we had guests and also had to kind of parse through all this information. So we're going to be covering what's going on with the Bitcoin Core op return debate controversy going on Twitter right now. I'm going to be as fair as possible. I'm getting both sides of the argument here, and we can chat about it, and you guys can make up your minds about it in the chat. So I am starting this with a meme, guys. So shouts out to my boy Greg Zaj. He did the Office meme, or wait, no, it's Arrested Development meme here, and he goes, I don't know what's happening with the core devs, and at this point, I'm afraid to ask. So, you know, I needed a little time to actually parse through the information. I have a lot of tweets here from respected Bitcoiners. I have both sides of the argument, so I'm going to try to run through this as quickly and eloquently as possible. And hopefully I do this, you know, fairly and actually give you guys the true signal here. Again, above my pay grade. I'm just a Bitcoiner. I run a node, etc. Anyway, starting here first, I'm going to start with learnmebitcoin.com. So we got to start with op return. So it's all about this op return thing going on. This is where the controversy started. So I'm giving you the definition here. So op return, storing data on the blockchain. Op return refers to a standard locking script that can be used to store data inside transactions. While this is an opcode on its own and can be used in a variety of different scripts, the name op return is also used to refer to a standard script pattern used for storing arbitrary data inside transactions. And that's primarily what we're talking about. Now, it started with this op return, or this pull request by Peter Todd, and it is removing the arbitrary limits on op return data carrier outputs number 32359. And you can see here, as per a recent Bitcoin dev mailing list discussion, this pull request also removes the code to enforce those limits, including the data carrier and data carrier size config options. These limits are easily bypassed by both direct submission to minor mempools, example Mara Slipstream, and forks of Bitcoin Core that do not enforce them, e.g. Libre Relay. Secondly, protocols are bypassing them by simply publishing data in other ways, such as unspendable outputs and script sigs. The form of data carrier outputs remain standardized, a single op return followed by 0 or more data pushes. Non-data opcodes remain non-standard. So Peter Todd has kind of pushed something similar 2 years ago, and it really didn't get any traction. But now it's getting all kinds of controversy, and it's spilled over from not only GitHub and the mailing list, but it's gone on Twitter. And this is where the whole controversy started from. So we have a lot of guys from the Ocean team tweeting about this, and we have Jason Hughes here. Goes,
wait, hold on. Can you break it down like I'm 5? What's the controversy?
I'm getting to it. So essentially, they're trying to remove the op return limits and basically allow more data to be put into the blockchain. And the controversy is what I'm covering right here. So this is where things start getting, you know, a little hairy and a lot really heated on Twitter. So we have this tweet: Bitcoin Core developers are about to merge a change that turns Bitcoin into a worthless altcoin, and no one seems to care to do anything about it. I voiced objections, lost sleep over this, and despite clear community rejection of the pull request, it's moving. And then Bitcoin Mechanic follows up and he goes, someone pushing for a major change to Bitcoin is affiliated with the company whose current exploit of Bitcoin was the motivation for the change, and then pointing this out on the GitHub discussion has resulted in me being banned. And this is where things start getting really crazy on Twitter, and everyone is, you know, fighting each other. And this is where like the main controversy has happened. It is the fact that Bitcoin Mechanic got banned on the GitHub, and I'll kind of break it down as we move forward. So again, we have Chris Guida, and he goes, what is going on with Bitcoin Core? Core devs used to be dedicated to remaining neutral. Now, if you point out a conflict of interest, your comments are marked as abusive. This is a really, really bad look. Now, going back to Bitcoin Mechanic, he goes, the language has changed. It was understood that core devs follow the community consensus, SegWit/Taproot things we want, or at least don't object to. The current narrative from apologists, however, is if you don't like core, go run something else. That is a change in attitude that's noteworthy, and the conversation around this malicious pull request is mirrored in credentialism and ivory tower condescension. Remember, this isn't an especially technical debate. Many Bitcoiners aren't interested in being forced to relay junk around the network from self-declared attackers. Ignoring feedback to the effect is runaway arrogance. So by removing the op return, we have the as they're kind of called on Twitter, the filter boys, basically saying like, look, I want pure monetary transactions on the Bitcoin network. The other side, which I'm going to cover a little more, is essentially saying this op return limit thing isn't even working right now. Now, we got some more Eli 5. So Bruce Fenton goes, can someone Eli 5 me? And Jameson Lopp chimes in and goes, ideological desires are rudely clashing with technical reality. And someone says, my 5-year-old doesn't understand this. And he goes, Alice wants Bob to stop peeing in the mempool, but even if she grabs Bob to stop him, the pee will still slip through and go everywhere. Alice cries because she can't stop the pee. Now here, breaking this down a little more, I found this good tweet by Brian 10309. And he goes, here's my honest opinion. Peter Todd's pull request number 32359, proposing to remove the 83 byte limit on op return is logical if you're being brutally honest about how Bitcoin is already being used. People are already putting arbitrary data onto Bitcoin through taproot outputs and other scripts that bypass the op return limits. In that sense, the spirit of the old limitation is already dead. Peter's point is basically, quote, stop pretending the restriction matters and just clean up the code base. And I think he's technically right. But I think the critics like Luke Dasher have a very valid strategic point. Bitcoin was never intended to be a blockchain for everyone's dog pictures, NFT junk, and vanity messages. The more junk data you allow, the more the blockchain bloats. Node operators' cost rises. Centralization pressures increase. Bitcoin's role as sound money could be slowly eroded by creep from, quote, blockchain as a playground behavior. So my verdict is Peter Todd is technically correct, but long term, it's a dangerous cultural signal to normalize even more arbitrary data spam. The core problem is bigger. Bitcoin never enforced a strict cultural firewall between financial settlement layer and, quote, do whatever you want users, Taproot, Ordinals, BRC20. It's all just following incentives. If the community doesn't find a way to realign incentives, example, stricter relay policies, minor policies, even a soft fork in the future, Bitcoin risks becoming harder to defend as a global financial base layer. Now, here's where much of the controversy comes out on Twitter. So again, we're talking like people that are trying to, filter the Bitcoin blockchain from spam, aka everything else that isn't a financial transaction, and then those that are trying to, put JPEGs on the blockchain, but essentially saying, look, people are already routing around this op return, so let's clean up the code base. And it's like people are already doing it anyways. And so here's the next tweet here. And there was a moderation here, and then we have Orcam, who I believe he is, from Citria, which is the company in question. He goes, literally brain dead here. Like Lop said, we are using the block space one way or another. If you think you can prevent it with your, quote, policies, feel free to try and see. We are building something that's actually good for Bitcoin. Try spending your time doing something similar. So a lot of back and forth. And then Anthony Towns chimes in. He goes, polluting the UTXO set is one of the most harmful things you can do to Bitcoin. If it was a newbie mistake, maybe that's forgivable, but it certainly doesn't put you on the moral high ground. And then they keep going back and forth. Polluting the UTXO set is definitely not ideal. That's what this pull request is already trying to solve, but you don't want that either. Bitcoin doesn't work by or need ethics. It's a collective network that relies on economic incentives, and you know that better than I do. And then he goes, all I'm saying is that a company that starts by polluting the UTXO set isn't one that I trust to be acting for the good of Bitcoin. If you are now also saying that you don't consider ethics necessary, then that just lowers my opinion further. Now, moving forward, we have Giacomo kind of chiming in with something similar, and he goes, the point is that discussing companies trying to change Bitcoin software in a way some users dislike to adapt to their business model is useful and not, quote, brigading, especially when the information is not otherwise readily available in the discussion. Continuing on the same vein, Bob McElrath goes, all this drama about op return is coming from the startup Citria, who are trying to put the EVM on Bitcoin, including storing state on Bitcoin, because Ethereum is such a wild success. I don't see any reason anyone using Bitcoin should support them co-opting it. Now, going further, again, kind of breaking this down, Giacomo did a huge reply. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but he goes, hey, Giacomo, what do you think about this? Of course, the pull request. And he goes, many things. One, I agree with one team that Bitcoin is a very spam-prone system due to global consensus. 2, I agree with the opposite team that consensus rules to rule out spam completely are probably unfeasible, and that even mempool filters to do so will never be an ultimate, complete, stable, or even elegant solution. 3, I agree with the former that mempool filters, even when incentive incompatible, have always been the default Bitcoin core strategy and proved to be effective and beneficial in spam mitigation over the years. 4, I agree with the latter that currently the spam budget may be so high and the mining concentration so bad to render the above cat and mouse game increasingly harder and more expensive. 5, I agree with the former that a change ship with the Taproot soft fork inadvertently increased the spam attack surface a lot, interacting with another change ship with SegWit to incentivize malicious behavior. 6, I agree with the latter that if one doesn't believe fixing the bug is relevant or desirable anymore, then maybe at this point it's more philosophically consistent and elegant to just let all the incentive incompatible mempool filters go for good. 7, I agree with the former that rushing such change as a default for everybody in Bitcoin Core, removing even an opt-out choice for the users, while some long-term contributors and many important power users and builders are against that with a fake sense of urgency, which is also logically inconsistent. Okay, now moving forward, again, some more takes here so we can kind of wrap our head around what's going on. We have Not Grubbles, and he goes, removing the op return limit because someone is using unspendable outputs is an admission that harmful spam exists, and there needs to be a way to mitigate the damage. There is just a disagreement on how to mitigate that damage. Everyone concedes there is damage being done, however, and then our boy Ben the Carman proposes a soft fork that stops it, then otherwise you're just virtue signaling. And then this is where a huge controversy happened. So Jamison Law tweeted, every so often someone gets upset their argument in a Bitcoin Core pull request fail to convince contributors, so they take their grievance to social media. Then many non-contributors pile into the pull request under the naive assumption that Core is a democracy governed by votes. And then Samson Mao and Adam Back respond. And so Samson goes, Bitcoin Core is not a democracy governed by votes. It's supposed to be based on rough consensus. Anyone can see that there is no consensus on relaxing op return limits. Pushing ahead on this change is going down a slippery slope, with Adam Back following. It'd be more edifying if people on GitHub explained the rationale. The stuff that spilled over to Twitter doesn't seem to have an argument for deleting filters. The argument for not deleting filters has been made. Presumably, there is one on GitHub somewhere. TLDR GitHubbers, question mark. And Samson Mao follows and goes, excuse me. From what I see, their argument is that it's already broken because people can spam via Taproot, so we should normalize spam in op return. Now, this is where Samson dropped like a really big tweet here and kind of followed what Mechanic was saying in the beginning, and he goes, the rhetoric that you must be a core dev for your opinion to matter is not conductive for good faith discussions to reach consensus. However, there are many things you can do to mitigate this. If Bitcoin core devs are going rogue, as Matt Crater says, there's actually a lot you can do. You can punish and defund developers that act in bad faith. You run a node and your economic power behind the Bitcoin network.
Let's focus on that one, guys, right? Because we've asked you, we've done many polls on Simply Bitcoin. We ask you guys if you guys take self-custody. Majority of you guys say yes, 80%. And then we ask you guys if you guys run a node. Only 30% of you guys do.
Yeah.
You don't have a vote on this if you don't run a node. Your node, when you're running a node is just basically a very fancy way of saying you're running your own version of the Bitcoin software on a computer. That's essentially what it means, right? But you get to choose which version of the Bitcoin software you want to run. And that gives you a vote, essentially. If you don't run a node, you're essentially relying on someone else's Bitcoin software, someone else's node, and they get to decide which version of the Bitcoin software they want to run. So it's better for Bitcoin the more people run nodes, because that's more people picking and choosing which versions of the Bitcoin software they want to run. So yes, run a node. There's in the video description, the podcast description, there's a promo code for Start9 if you don't want to build one. If you just want to buy one that's plug and play, completely open source, run a node so that you have a vote, right? Opti's running a node. I'm running a node. Opti and I are not, tech guys. We're media people, and it's so easy. Literally, Start9 makes it so easy. So anyways, Opti, continue.
Yeah. Okay. So, like you said, run a node, or rather, if you already run a node, as a lot of people are saying on Twitter, maybe the fix is you run Bitcoin Knots instead of Bitcoin Core. And then, of course, stop funding some organizations, reach out to the ETF providers, talk about this at your conference, of course, talk about this on your podcast as we're doing. There's a lot that we can do. Now, here's the last couple tweets here to kind of, I think, sum up this conversation. We have Shinobi going, the blockchain grows at the same rate if blocks are full, regardless of what they're full of. And Mr. Hodl responds and goes, but one use case might outstrip another use case. And from the looks of things, there will be no sharing of the UTXOs anytime soon. And then this is like where we kind of sum this up and, are a little charitable to Bitcoin Core here. So MBK goes, Core is always in an impossible position by design, but I think through beyond this world, some cool heads always found the calmer patience to discuss, no matter how extreme things were. This time it's handling things with a little less patience, and that's a massive mistake. And then Giacomo following up, someone asked him, sorry to bother you, Giacomo, will Bitcoin be dead? And Giacomo goes, no, Bitcoin will survive. Worst case scenario, the GitHub core repo will follow in disuse, and it will become harder to coordinate soft forks in the future, leading to earlier layer 1 consensus rules ossification. And then, of course, that big take. And the last one, Jimmy Song, a lot of people are getting anxious about the latest flare up in Core, but here's the thing. Users are sovereign and they get to decide what their node is running. And I think that's the best way to sum this up.
That's it. That's it right there. Like, if you want to summarize, first of all, excellent job, Opti. That was
it's above
incredible.
My pay grade, but hopefully I explained
that was incredible. You laid out exactly what was happening. Could you repeat that last line by Jimmy Song? Because that's the TLDR out of all of this.
Yeah, so here, I'll pull it up. Last tweet. A lot of people are getting anxious about the latest flare up in Core, but here's the thing. Users are sovereign and they get to decide what their node is running. So this is where the conversation kind of goes on. First of all, you should and need to be running a node. If you aren't running a node, you are literally not participating in Bitcoin. I repeat, if you are not running a node, you are literally not participating in Bitcoin. Yes, you may get the Bitcoin price exposure, but by running the literal software that Bitcoin is built on, that's how you actually participate in Bitcoin, and not just running one and, downloading the initial block download, like connecting it to your wallets and verifying your transactions. If you do not verify your own transactions, you don't know if you're actually holding Bitcoin. That's the main takeaway here. First of all, if that 70% of you guys, was it 30% run nodes and 70% of you guys that don't run nodes, you should figure out how to run a node. It's really not that complicated. And if you're willing to pay a little bit, like get yourself a pure, it's super, super easy. It's easy.
And I'll tell you guys about the Start9, right? So first of all, these guys are awesome. You don't have to buy the hardware. You can literally download the software and flash it onto an old computer. So you don't even need to spend money. If you have an old computer that's laying around or whatever, you can literally take the Start9 software and you can put it on that old computer, and boom, you're running a node.
Dude, buy a ThinkPad and put StartOS on it.
Or you can just buy a plug and play option. I love Matt and I love the guys at Start9. This is why we literally recommend them. You can just buy a plug and play option. The server pure is really interesting because it's completely open source, right? Even the kernel, when you come with a computer, it comes with all this like background software that could potentially be used for surveillance and blah, blah, blah. They've literally gutted this device completely to the point that it's only running the Start9 software. Even the Intel software that comes with the chip, they managed to get that off. So I really recommend the server pure. And then if you want like a cheaper version, which also is completely open source, the server one. Think about this as like a dedicated computer that you have at your house that essentially continuously runs the Bitcoin software.
Yeah, like my server pure is literally sitting right next to my internet router. It's just chilling.
And same situation with me. It's like I literally have it. And then what's really cool, guys, is that if you have Sparrow or Electrum or whatever wallet or Blue Wallet, you can connect your Blue Wallet, your Sparrow, your Electrum to your node. So you don't have to connect to someone else's node. And then in the process, you're doxing yourself. So I do believe we have a Start9 promo code. By the way, we're not sponsored by them. I just absolutely love their product. Just go to Start9, use the Simply promo code. You can buy one pre-built. If you don't want to feel like, if you don't feel like you don't want to spend money, you can just take their software and upload it to an old computer, and boom, you have a node. If you don't have a node, you don't have a vote in all of this, right? And that's the most important takeaway from all this, right?
Yeah, keep going. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I'll just add after.
So like if you want to vote in this kind of Bitcoin's had many civil wars. The block size war was pretty crazy. And the people, essentially, the TLDR of the block size wars is some of the most powerful Bitcoin companies tried to increase the size of the blocks, which in the process would essentially centralize Bitcoin because it would increase the barrier to entry in order for you to run a node. Let me give you an example of what that means. So the reason Ethereum is so centralized is because of the resource requirements that it takes to run an Ethereum node. It's like thousands of dollars worth of equipment. So the vast majority of Ethereum nodes are actually run on AWS. So Amazon Web Services, the majority of them, right? What makes Bitcoin different and unique is that there's a decentralized node network all around the world, and the resource requirements needs to be low enough so it's inexpensive enough for the average everyday person to run their own version of Bitcoin, right? So yeah, I mean, this is just another kind of mini Bitcoin civil war. And if you want to get involved, make your voice known. I mean, Samson, walk you through the process. But if you really want to vote in this whole thing that's going on, run a node. I recommend Start9, buy yourself a pre-built version, or you can just flash the software on an old computer. I recommend the pre-built version. It's absolutely badass. I love it. I've had it for years now. When Matt first announced it, the Futurama meme, I'm like, take my money. And I literally have not regretted that purchase since. Anyways, Opti, what were you saying?
Yeah, and that just a second thing, like the real quote unquote vote, I guess here would be whether you're going to run Bitcoin Core or Bitcoin Knots here. So hopefully I gave you enough information so you can kind of make up your mind. Obviously, I would recommend that you dive a little deeper in this. I had so many tweets this morning and the last couple of days to kind of put up on the show, but I just kind of had to parse the, kind of simplify it for you guys. On the one hand, I am a monetary maxi. I want, pure monetary transactions. I will be looking into, running Bitcoin Knox on my Start9. There's some things I have to consider as well. I think one of the other takeaways here is like, it's being projected as if it's like this very urgent thing. And I think as we've always see in Bitcoin, we always fight about stuff. And I think that's very healthy. But I think the controversy we've seen on Twitter, it might have been a little blown out of proportion here. But hey, I tried to cover it as best as you can, and you guys have been wanting this. So hopefully we did a good job for you guys. Again, love my pay grade here. I just plug in my node and verify my transactions. I'm not a core dev. I tried to learn to be a developer. It's not in my wheelhouse here. So someone said, I tried to explain it with crayons for you guys, and hopefully that made sense and you guys have a better idea of what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Anyways, guys, before we wrap up today's show, I do want to give an incredibly special shout out, of course, to our conference sponsor. And I am talking about the Bitcoin conference. It's going to be the largest Bitcoin conference of the year. It's going to be in Las Vegas, Nevada, at the Venetian Hotel. Simply we'll have a booth. We will be making content from the conference floor. Guys, I hope we don't miss you at this Bitcoin celebration. It's May 27th through the 29th of 2025. So it's coming up this month in 27 days at the Venetian Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. Again, Bitcoin 2025, the world's largest Bitcoin event. Embrace the game theory. Get your tickets quickly before the prices increase. Scan the QR code, check the link in the video description, use promo code SIMPLY. Again, promo code SIMPLY to get 10% off your tickets to Bitcoin 2025. We hope to see all of you guys there. Anyways, guys, love you all. Appreciate you all.
Wait. Vote in the poll real quick. Vote in the poll real quick while we end the show. Core versus Knots. Wrap up, Nico.
Yeah, no, let's do it. That's a great poll. I mean, right now it's 50-50, 27 votes. We'll keep it rolling. 28 votes, 50-50. It's at 50-50 right now. 50-50.
28 is not statistically significant. Everyone vote right now. Give us 20 seconds. Vote right now. Hit the YouTube chat and vote so we can have a little
30,
more voters here.
30,
okay, Knots is rising.
All right, I'm going to end it right there. All right, so Knots, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough votes, but 52% voted for Knots. But this is the beauty of Bitcoin. You have the choice to run what version you want to run if you run a node, which is why we recommend it. Anyways, guys, we love you all. We appreciate you all. Smash the like button. Consider subscribing. I'm your host, Nico. It's my legendary co-host, Optimus Fields. We are Simply Bitcoin. And Opti will be back tomorrow. I'm going to be doing a very special interview tomorrow. But Opti will be in the host seat tomorrow with Luke Mikic. It's going to be a great Friday show. And I'll see you guys back on Monday. Peace out, everybody. Love you all. Take care.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.